Hi.
Do let the listeners know what's your name and what you do.
Hi, so I'm David Lennon and I'm the Executive Creative Director at Fortune. I cover the commercial side of the business, so that's working on branded content for Fortune, as well as the Fortune brand itself and how we represent ourselves in the marketplace.
Interesting. What does your role as the Creative Director of Fortune Media entail?
So right now it's kind of split 50-50. On one side, I'm working with Fortune Studios, which is our own in-house branded content studio. And we have writers and editors and designers and marketeers and project managers and production people who are there to create digital, print, video and live experiential campaigns for our clients. And then on the other side of my role, I'm also working with our CMO, Michael Josoloff, who is spearheading how Fortune represents itself to the marketplace and how, as we're now a newly independent company, how we can take advantage of the fact that we have an opportunity to promote ourselves and our interest, which is basically promoting business as a force for good in the world and really putting a spotlight on businesses that know that you can make profit and have a purpose, and the two go hand in hand, and that will lead to long-term sustainable growth.
How long have you been in the business of global communications?
So I started at an ad agency. I'm from Liverpool, but I went to an ad agency in Manchester in '97. Stayed there for a couple of years, then moved down to London to join Bloomberg. I was at Bloomberg for 14 years, 7 in London, 7 in New York, Wall Street Journal for 3.5 years, Vice for just over a year, and I'm now 5 months into my role at Fortune.
Wow, quite a loaded resume. And if I read correctly, you've won over 250 awards.
Yeah, so the awards are a product of a whole team of people that I've worked with. But yeah, there's, from my time at Bloomberg, Wall Street Journal, Vice, and then now, there's been a lot of awards that we've won for clients in different industries. And yeah, we just see that as a kind of icing on the cake for really good, effective work we make for clients.
Interesting. What do you think of 21st century communications, and what do you think has changed within the last 10-20 years?
Okay, so the big thing that's changed for me is when I left university to go to my first job, email wasn't a thing.
Oh, really?
Like, people had just started to use it, but it wasn't adopted. And then when I went to university and come out of university into an advertising agency, everyone was still focused on TV advertising with print and direct mail, and the digital business and websites was just starting to take off. And there was a lot of kind of rush to digital. And then over the years, we've seen how powerful digital can be. And then obviously the move to smartphones. And technology seems to be gathering pace. The developments that are happening now don't just happen in isolated areas. There's a really interesting thing that we found out. We went to Pakistan to film, and they're more advanced in mobile banking in Pakistan, and it's more accepted there than it is in the US. So there's technology moving at different paces, and kind of countries that were maybe a little bit behind are like leapfrogging the processes that maybe some of the Western countries have gone through, and they've gone from no kind of smartphone adoption to all of a sudden they're paying for more things more of the time than US consumers. So I think it's a really interesting time, and I think as I spoke today, there's sometimes an inclination for people to seize on the newest technology as being the best new thing, and it's not. I think you've always got to look at creativity and the communications of what is it that you want to say, what's the story that you want to put out there, and then you need to work out the best platform for it. So Technology can be a hindrance if you're just thinking technology first. It's there to service us, and I think the more we remember that, the better the work that we do. You know, and the audience will appreciate it more because it's served in the best way rather than just the newest.
True. What do you think has changed? How has branded content changed in the last decade? And how do you think an individual, a corporation, and a country, a state, can leverage on branded content?
So I think 10 years ago, branded content in most people's eyes was a term that used to be still thrown around now, but advertorial, where essentially a client would create a press ad or work with a newspaper or whatever to create a print ad that would still feel very advertising speak, if that makes sense. It would feel like you were being sold something. And I think what's happened with the rise of digital and the fact that people were on desktops and laptops and now smartphones and focused on content, people have more of a choice. You're not served only 3 channels. Like in England, I grew up when there was only 3 channels on television, and now if you think about it, with the internet and YouTube, there's like infinite numbers channels of ways that you can watch video and kind of TV content. So there's more choice, which has meant that usually the places that succeed are either pushing out higher quality content, better quality content, or just it's smarter content that they know that people are going to resonate to. And so branded content can no longer be something that doesn't match and see eye to eye with the editorial that it surrounds. And so I'd definitely say that certainly in the past 7 years, the competition to do better, more outlandish, more interesting, more engaging, more emotional storytelling has really been found in branded content. People have accepted that, you know, the standard has to rise. And I think the best branded content studios are news organizations that are healthy. Most news organizations right now are suffering because with the drain of advertising dollars from organic traffic, which is now all on social media instead of people looking around the internet. I think it's super important for networks and publishers and media companies to try and produce the best branded content. Sorry, my voice got. So yeah, I think the big changes have been that companies have realised that they need to build out studios with talent and creativity and expertise in the same way that they would when they look at their own editorial teams. You can't skimp and save money, because if your studio, your branded content studio, isn't pushing out really high quality work, there's too much competition out there now. So I think competition is super healthy. I think there's some companies out there that are doing amazing jobs at branded content. And what we want to do at Fortune is build out a best in class team that really takes on the big guns and build out long-term growth for our company and our newsroom and Fortune as a brand, so that we can bring in more investment and we can support more interesting storytelling from the mother brand, if you will.
Okay. To the final question, what's your take on Speak for Africa conference that you attended? And from a perspective, how can a country take full advantage of major strategizing, global communications, and all that?
Yeah. So Perez contacted me on LinkedIn, and I don't normally speak at events. I don't like to, because certainly in my business, we give a lot of trade secrets away if we explain how we do things too widely. And so this is only the second time in my career that I've been prepared to stand in front of a crowd and kind of go behind the scenes of what we do and how we do it. But the reason that Perez sold me on this was because Speak for Africa is about Africans standing up for themselves and telling their own story about Africa. It doesn't need to be done through news organisations and media organisations from outside who have satellites within the company, inside the country, sorry. Although they serve a purpose, and I'm sure a lot of their journalism is excellent, I think every country and every continent is a better place when you have honest, open, and investigative journalism from the people within that city, that country, that region, that continent, because they know themselves best and they can get deeper into stories. And so when he said that Speak for Africa was about how Africa can, as a continent of 54 countries, can learn from what's being done outside and adapt it and take these learnings and use it to propel their own missions. That was when I said, you know what, I want to be part of this. I want to see if I can come and be of assistance. So I talked through my career with him. He said it would resonate with the people in the room. And I explained to him that I'm not coming here as any kind of expert on Africa. I'm not coming here to tell you what to do. I'm very much a big believer in this is where I've been, this is what I've done, this is my career to date. These are the challenges, these are the successes, these are the failures. And take from it what you will. Take from it the elements that will work, that you can use, that will push you forward, and ignore the stuff that doesn't make sense. You know, there's millions of different ways to approach creativity and communications. No one ever knows all the answers, and so I just wanted to come here, share my experience, and hope that I can play a very small part in this conference, which is the first one, which I really believe has got a mission that can hopefully have changed lives over the next 10, 50, 100 years in Africa, because someone who spoke at the conference yesterday talked about the global image of Africa, because of the tourism and the stories that governments and travel want to put out, is of safari animals and sunsets. And I think the reality of Africa is that there's people working in incredibly developed cities all across the continent who aren't getting the focus that they deserve. And I think that this conference will enable more people internally within Africa to tell their stories better, which should resonate around the world, because you know, the world keeps getting smaller with the rise of the internet, and you know, people are connected in so many different ways that it can only be good that people understand every country, every continent, the people that are there, their challenges, you know, their hopes and dreams. And I think journalism, quality journalism, is at the heart of all of that. And I think from my perspective, branded content is a really good way to help support quality journalism long term, because we can build partnerships with clients that will last for many, many years.
Thank you very much for your time.
Cool. Thank you.